Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/slash entitled people. In today's episode, Karen wigs out after kid discovers she sold his comics. EP wanted discount for being inconvenienced. Entitled apartment neighbors. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Karen wigs out after kid discovers she sold his comics. This happened back in the 90s when I had my second comic store. One afternoon, I was in my store going through inventory when a woman walked in. This was unusual back then because, well, it was. I saw that she did have the precursor to what would become the Karen cut, was wearing large rimmed glasses and a skirt that was the style back then. I figured she might be looking for a gift for her son, so I asked her if I could help. She asked me if I bought boxes of comics. I told her usually not, unless there was something I could use, but I would take a look. So we go to her car and bring in a couple of long boxes. These hold about 300 unbagged/boarded books or 250 boarded, and I went through them. They were all bagged and seemed to be in good shape. They were the popular books at that time: X-Men, Hulk, Ghost Rider. I thought I could sell them and offered her $100 for the lot, and she accepted. She left, and I put the boxes on a table to price them and sort them out. About 20 minutes later, a kid, about 12, walks in and looks at the books on the wall and notices the boxes. He asked if they were for sale, and I said yes, but they weren't priced out yet, so if there was something he wanted, I'd give him the price then, and he started looking through them. After a few seconds, he had a strange look on his face, and I asked him if something was wrong. I'll never forget what he said. "These are my books." I said, "What?" And he repeated it. I asked him if he could verify it, and he said that he had a code written on every board and he could recite them. I then pulled out 5 books at random, and he nailed every code. I asked him to describe his mother, and he described the woman that sold me the books. I told him not to worry, he'll get them back. I asked for his phone number, and I called it, placed it on speaker, and waited. After a few rings, she answered, and I responded, "Mrs. Karen, your son is here and informed me that the books you sold me did not belong to you. Will you please come down and give me back the $100, and he can have his books back, as I do not buy stolen merchandise." Her response: "My son is in your store?" She screams at him to get out of there now and never to set foot in there again. She shrieks that if he ever comes in, she will have me arrested. The kid was in tears. All he muttered was, "You stole my books." She continues her rant. "I don't want that shit in my house. Get out now." And then she slams the phone down. I let the kid sit down while I processed what just happened. While this was going on, another kid and his mother saw him and said hello and saw he was crying. They knew him, and the new kid's mother asked what happened, and the kid told her. She was, to say the least, disgusted and said she'll take him home and have a few words with his mother. Before he left, I asked him what he wanted to do. He said do whatever it takes. I asked, even call the police? He said yes. I said I'm going to try one more thing before that. About 7:30 that night, I called the number. This was before caller ID, and got the father and explained what happened that afternoon. Only thing he said was, "She did what?" I repeated, and again he said the same. Then Karen realized who he was talking to and started screaming. The father just said for her to shut up. Then he thanked me and said he would handle it and asked what time I closed. About 15 minutes later, I see the kid and his father with Karen being dragged along, and she is shrieking so loud dogs 3 counties away had bleeding ears. He drags her in and tells her to give me back the $100. She yells that she doesn't want that shit in her house and she won't do it. She's going to have me arrested for selling this shit to children, and how could they let me open in this town? She hated Superman and baseball cards. She breaks away from the father and attempts to kick out my showcase, and it was only because he managed to grab her collar and yank her back that they weren't smashed. She then tried to shove my computer off the counter, but I managed to stop her. The father gave me back what I paid plus a little extra for all the bullshit and apologized. Karen said she'll just set them on fire. Father said no. He is bringing them to his business and would keep them safe from her. He also said he would come with the kid in the future. Now I found out the aftermath about 10 years later secondhand, so I can't verify. Karen basically destroyed the relationship and never apologized. After the kid graduated, he joined the army, married, and had a kid. He doesn't see her often but allows contact when the father is there. Over comic books. I have seen worse. Now, there are those who are probably asking, why didn't I ask her if they were hers? I didn't think of it. But since then, when a woman says she has comics to sell, I ask, are they yours? Out of all the times, at least 50, in the last 10 years, only one said they were hers. I then ask, do you have the owner's permission? Never a yes. I tell them, I don't accept stolen property. One of these was quite entertaining. At a flea market I used to do, a woman walked to my booth and asked me if I bought comics. I asked her, are they yours? She said no. I then asked if she had permission and again no. I asked, why do you want to sell them? Her reason? He's too old to be reading comics. He was 37. I said, ma'am, I'm 49 at the time and said I read comics. A guy looking through my books said, ma'am, I'm 72 and I read comics. She huffed that we were immature idiots. The guy said, at least I'm not stealing my kids' books. Have a nice day. This is not the worst incident I have had, but is in the top 20. In my head, when the 72-year-old turns and says he still reads them, it is a Stan Lee cameo. You're a good person. Exceptional. You're awesome, man. My folks always encourage me and my brother to collect baseball cards, comic books, coins, stamps, whatever. On my 16th birthday, while I was at school, Mom decided to stop by the comic book shop in the next town just to see if they had any special edition comics she could get me for my birthday. She had never bought me a comic on her own before. I don't think she'd ever even been in a comic book store before. So when I got home from school and I went to the dining room table to start on my homework, there was a Death of Superman comic, regular, and right next to it was the Death of Superman in the black bag with the red Superman symbol dripping blood. Mom knocked it out the park that day. I wish we had comic book shops around my area like when I was growing up. I think the closest one to me is 4 hours away. Not really in the same class exactly, but I am super into Magic the Gathering and I've been playing it for almost 9 years now. I'm currently 22. Both my parents hated it because my dad always wanted a sporty son and my mom always wanted a popular son with popular friends. My friend, William, who also happens to be the man who taught me how to play Magic, always kept my cards in his locker for me because he knew that my parents hated Magic and had tried before to destroy or throw away my collection. Reading this story brought back some good memories, and I hope you realize how grateful that kid must have been for you to go so far for him. I'll never forget William for introducing me to Magic and being the shelter against the monsoon of hate my parents unleashed when I told them about it. If you're reading this, Will, I love you, bro. Rakdos life. The guy said, at least I'm not stealing my kids' books. Have a nice day. That's the perfect comeback for someone as immature as her. Glad he said it. EP wanted discount for being inconvenienced. I work in a call center for deliveries. This customer's package was supposed to be delivered at 4 p.m. We have an app for people to track their delivery, and this lady saw that the truck delivering her package was struck by a semi, and we had to route another driver to deliver her package. She demanded a discount for being inconvenienced. She told me she saw everything on the news and she wanted her discount or she would cancel. The driver had to be taken to the ER and she demanded a discount. Refund her order and bar her from making any future purchases. I would if I could. Not my call. The manager gave her the discount and she's a repeat long-time customer. She wants to cancel? Let her cancel. Her loss, and you do not need her business. Entitled apartment neighbors. This was 16 years ago. I lived in these apartments going on 3 years. Was happy there. Had wonderful neighbors. I was always respectful to my neighbors next to me and below me by being quiet in the evenings. And my neighbors deeply appreciated it. Then we had some new renters come in across the parking lot. Same complex. About every Friday night they would have parties. I lived in Southern California, and most nights the air is calm. So sound traveled like an amphitheater. I also then had my youngest son, who was a baby. At 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., all you could hear was them talking, whooping it up, laughing like they were standing right next to my bed. Yes, the windows were closed. About the fourth weekend, I would call security. They go talk to them, very little help. Next weekend, same. I finally went over and told them to quit as they were way too loud. They laughed and kept going. Their next door neighbors said that I needed to be quiet. Couldn't understand how they didn't hear their neighbors. Finally started calling the cops. Next rent payment, I went to the apartment office and complained as I made the payment. The office said I was the problem. At this point, I was done. I started looking around and decided to buy a home. Following week, I made an offer and it was accepted. The office staff told me that they were happy to see me go as I was a problem on these party nights. After 6 weeks of closing, I pack up and move. My oldest son came to help me. As we were loading up, one of my neighbors who lived next to my apartment and said they envied me as they too were tired of our partying neighbors. The neighbor next door to the party group yells out to me and said good riddance. I rolled my eyes and the nice neighbor asked her what her problem was, as the only disturbance in the area was her neighbor as they had all of their parties. Anyways, 2 months later, I drove to the apartments to find out that every single renter in my building and half from the building next to mine were vacant. Everyone moved because of the party group. The apartment complex finally evicted the renters that were partying. I guess losing one renter was okay, but 16 apartments vacated because of them was too much. This was about $35,000 a month. I spoke with a couple of my old neighbors and found out that when they gave their notice to end their lease, the apartment managers tried talking them into staying. They told them that they were done with the neighbors who partied all the time. It took them a few months to get new renters in, especially after all of the negative reviews they got. Ugh, I live next to renters like that, and my landlord thinks we're the problem for complaining. We're trying to buy by the end of the year, so I'm just living for this post and hoping it's my outcome too. I'm glad you got out. Yes, it was well worth it. Funny thing is, every time I saw the office manager, she would tell me what a great tenant I was. Always paid rent on time. Home was always clean. Never a complaint from a neighbor for 3 years. Best revenge was after I moved, everyone else did. Wondering if the problem renters were friends or family. Each and every renter that left told them they were leaving because of the noise from that one apartment. The managers finally realized that the party animals were hitting where it hurt, in the wallet. The apartment owners/managers clearly valued the troublemakers more than the people who were good tenants. It's like blaming the victim of being bullied when they don't cave to the bully. Cowards. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.